Welcome to Second Story Garage. I'm Ashley Dean, and today I'm here with the Yawpers. How's it going?
Oh, good.
Awesome. So, first thing I wanted to ask you about is for some good tour stories, because I know you have a lot of them.
Cool. Well, we'll pretend that this is totally off the cuff right now, but we were just talking about it.
Which one?
This is kind of I guess another NSFW situation, but we were playing in the Outer Banks out in North Carolina, and there was this girl there, and it was kind of winding down towards the end of the evening, and the place was kind of full, and it was just like a bunch of guys partying, and I wanted to go to sleep, and there was a girl there who, unbeknownst to me, everybody else in the band had already tried to make a pass at, and realized that she was insane.
Yeah, it's pretty hard.
And
Actually, everyone there told me not to because she's crazy.
yeah, exactly. But this obviously wasn't said to me, and these guys let me slide on it, and so I meet this girl for about 8 minutes, and we have some really interesting conversations about Sartre and the meaning of life and all kinds of nonsense like that. And I'm like, all right, well, I can sleep at your place, and so I start walking away, and the funniest part, actually, in retrospect, is that I ran into Dave on the way out, who was aware that she was insane and had been warned off, and he just waved at me instead of being like, "No, dude, like, don't do it, man." Like, anyway, so I didn't realize anything was wrong until about 2 minutes into the drive back to her house, when she told me that her biggest problem with humanity is that not enough people killed themselves.
Right.
As she's driving 90 miles an hour on these like backwoods in like the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, and I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck did I get myself into?
Walking from Annie Hall.
Yeah, exactly. And what? And anyway, so we finally get to her place. I'll kind of try and redact a lot of the story, but we get to her place, and like she drives like a really nice Jetta, and I noticed that there was like huge scratch marks on the side of it, and I didn't realize, I didn't put together in my mind what it could be until we got to her house, and the driveway was so overgrown with trees that the car literally had to like squeeze in between all these branches. So I'm like pulling in with this chick who's out of her mind, just saying the fucking weirdest shit that you ever could imagine somebody saying, like, cotton candy is great for polar bears and shit like that. And we're pulling into this fucking driveway, and it's just like, just like selling the fact that I have made a huge mistake as it scratches on the side of the car. So I open up the door, and like I look at her house, and it's like this overgrown, like fucked up manor, like in the middle. There's no houses to be seen, and it's like there's like a broken window upstairs, and like there's cats jumping everywhere. Oh, so many fucking cats. Anyway, so I know I'm in trouble at this point, but I'm like, you shouldn't be judgmental of people. She, maybe just, she has a hard time cleaning, and she's probably a perfectly reasonable, cool lady. And so she takes me in her back door, and then she goes, okay, well, listen, you got to be quiet. My mom's here. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right, this is getting a little weird. And she goes, she hasn't left her room in 13 years. Right. And I'm like, oh, my fucking God. So now I'm like in a Norman Bates fucking situation, and there's newspapers stacked from floor to ceiling, and you have to like walk in between these like the hallways don't make sense anymore. It's just literally where the newspapers aren't. That's where you walk. And like there's cat piss all over them, and it stinks, and I'm like, fucking God damn it. So eventually she takes me upstairs to her room, and her room, I don't know what had happened, if there was water damage or something, but the floor is now at like a 26-degree angle. And all the shit in her room has like flown to the side that's at the bottom of the angle. But her bed is like screwed up to the top. So there's like this pile of like shit, and you walk in like kind of like on a slant, and you're just like, what the fuck? And then her bed's up there like at a thing, and she goes, we're not sleeping together tonight. And I go, great. That is the best news I've heard in this story. And she goes, you're going to be staying across the hall. So she takes me in, and in between these huge stacks of newspapers are these two twin beds that are like immaculately made, perfectly made beds. I'm like, oh, that's, at least they're good hosts. They everything else is fucked up, but if guests come over, they made those beds real nice. And she goes, please go to sleep. And I'm like, okay. So she leaves the room, and just for the sake of the story later, she's wearing clogs, wooden clogs, and she has hardwood floors. So she clogs out of the room like a fucking, I don't know, like prancing horse. Yeah, like a witch. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to man up. I'm going to sleep. Everything's going to be okay. And I pull back the sheets on this immaculately made bed. And underneath the sheets, evenly distributed, as if put there with like a sifter, are breadcrumbs. Perfectly underneath the sheets. They weren't visible from the outside, but as soon as you pull it back, all the way down to the bottom of the bed is an even layer of breadcrumbs. Right. And I'm like, oh my what the
Well,
hell?
that's how people usually make beds.
It was the fucked up part is it was intention. It was so clearly intentional because they made the bed perfectly over it, and then it was just so anyway. I sweep it off, lay in bed. I'm freaked out. I can hear her walking around like clogging in her room for like the next 4 fucking hours as I like try and get some sleep. I eventually nod off, and I don't know for how long, but I wake up because she's clogging around in my room. Or in the guest room, and she's just kind of like, I don't know if she was staring at me the whole time or if she started staring at me because I shot up in bed. But when I shot up in bed, she's just like dead on staring at me in the face. I'm like, oh, okay. So I lay back down, can't get another wink of sleep. And it's like maybe an hour and a half later, it's like 7 in the morning at this point. She comes in, she goes, it's time for me to eat, which means it's time for you to leave. And so I'm like, okay, great. Well, can you take me back to my friend's house who I'm staying at? This is great. Let's get out of here. You're awesome. Everything's cool, right? Ow!
Great night.
You are the best. Don't kill me right now. So anyway, I get in her car, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go to Michelle's house. And she goes, okay, yeah. So she drives me directly to Michelle's house, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll see you later. And I walk upstairs, and this friend we were staying with, Michelle, goes,
The one who
oh,
warned
did you?
me.
Yeah, the one who warned him was like, did you tell her where I lived? And I said, no, I just said take me to Michelle's house. She's like, she's never been to my house before.
That's the end of the story.
Yeah, and it was so weird. Anyway, that was a weird tour story.
Well, you all probably have a curse on you.
Yeah. You missed hanging out watching the Perseid meteor shower doing Tai Chi on the beach.
So, your new album's about to come out.
Yeah!
Real quick, let's talk about that. How you feeling about it? Good stuff?
Feeling really good about it.
Yeah. Super duper good.
Good.
The best.
We don't have a bass player, so people have to know where the bass is coming from. So
Right.
people crank it in their car. It's like, so I want to think our album competes with modern hip hop, and so I hope to hear it on huge sound
House
systems
music.
in
Excellent.
a month or so.
Nice. And you made a video to go with it, and you brought us something.
I did. We made a video called Silicon Love, following the American wet dream / wet nightmare man as he makes his way through the world huffing gas and, being a misogynist. But we brought you the American flag that he wore as a cape, which is down in the car, unfortunately. I'm not happy.
Excellent.
But I'm going to give it to you.
Well, we will hang it up, and we will forever think of men huffing gas on the street. All right, guys, thanks for coming in. Make sure you check out the video of the performances online.